refinery. So there's a lot going on surrounding her right
Yes.
now.
Third story of the day, it revolves around Federal Reserve decision. In fact, just in about the past hour or so, we got details that the Federal Reserve interest rate is going to remain unchanged. This is despite the fact that President Trump himself is wanting the interest rate lowered, but the Federal Reserve basically saying at this point they're going by economic policy. They're trusting the numbers more than they are, and they've actually said this pretty publicly that they're trusting the numbers and the economic data more than they are really anything else that's actually coming out right now as far as what the Trump administration themselves want.
Right, and obviously, Trump has been quite public about his opinions about Jerome Powell,
Yes.
and
there's that
he's
investigation
going to
that's
be
into him right now,
he's
too.
going to be
Yeah.
leaving soon, and
Yeah.
we're waiting for the announcement of who Trump wants in his place, but. They just said there are signs that unemployment has stabilized, and the economy is picking back up. So they see no need to change the interest rates right now, the Fed rate. And the question just is how long the Fed will remain on hold here. Many economists think that it's going to be cut. There will be 2 cuts this year, most likely at the June meeting or even later. So. As for now, it just remains unchanged.
Yeah, this coming, as I just mentioned just a couple of moments ago, but more details on this. Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve themselves are also facing a separate Department of Justice investigation over some reported statements made about building renovations and how much the Federal Reserve would need for that. And that kind of prompted, in fact, we told you about this a couple of weeks ago, just the fact that there's this investigation going on and the fact that Jerome Powell has pushed back basically saying, hey, this is more or less basically insinuating, if not, implicitly, if not explicitly, this is a retaliation for not necessarily
Right,
doing
exactly.
as President Trump was wanting, at least in that circumstance. Fourth story of the day, a little bit more local here, and this one is a very, very wild story. It's out of Matthews. It involves a battalion chief who's been charged with burning buildings. And this man is, for lack of better words, quite well known in Matthews and actually within some fighter circles.
We did a lot of digging today, and it just seems even odder, even more odd when you dig into the details and figure out the history and what's going on here. So this is Fire Battalion Chief Peter Blaish. So there's a vacant building on Independence Boulevard, Boston Market.
Yeah.
It's been vacant for a while. And this fire happened January 12th. He actually called it in and said, hey, there's a fire at this building. So one of the other captains came out and said he didn't see anything. He didn't see any smoke. And apparently, according to the affidavit, Blaish said, oh, I think I do see it, and led him to the side of the building where they found that there was evidence of a fire. But here's the thing. It was like on the top of a door frame and in a room that it didn't add up to the captain on scene.
Yeah, the fire itself was kind of in the wall, and it was also
there was no power connected to the building, so there wouldn't be a fire in the wall.
And what got me, as far as some of these details, that at least or in this specific case, we'll get into his history actually in just a moment. But what got me about this case was it was actually 2 things. First off, there was a belief, at least at the time, that some homeless person may have been inside.
That was
the building.
what Blaish said. That there were some people that earlier in the night he was trying to get out of there.
But what got me probably more than anything else, reading the incident report, was that the GPS location on Blaish's vehicle had actually put him there, allegedly, according to the court documents, in the hours before the fire. In fact, 3 hours before the fire. And once they did their investigation, because something seemed a little off anyway, at least according to investigators at the time, that's when they started looking into it.
So here's where it gets even weirder.
Yeah.
One of the captains began tracking the movement, and I'm reading this from the affidavit, of the battalion chief's vehicle on the First Due app because of a suspicious fire in March of 2025. So I looked in our records to see what fires we covered in March of 2025, and there was a fire at the home behind that Boston Market where this fire was on March 19th of 2025. They all responded. Blaish himself was there. And so it makes me wonder if that's the suspicious fire that everyone's talking about. It was a home that was just engulfed in flames. So again, they have kind of suspicions that maybe he was involved in another fire. It just all seems very, very odd.
Yeah.
So
yeah, his
history
is what's interesting, and this kind of compounds a lot of what he's accused of, and I mean he's a battalion chief, or at least I think he's
he used to work for Cornelius Lumley Fire Rescue. Yeah. They posted on Facebook a number of years ago that he was a retired FDNY captain who was a first responder on 9/11. He comes from a long, I mean, his whole family, they were firefighters.
Yes, and he had it's quite well known, in fact, that he was there. In fact, he had been interviewed several times on that subject. In fact, he banged the Keep Pounding drum at one of the Panthers games. And in fact, we interviewed him a couple of years ago. We were looking at archives. Yeah, a number of times, which is making this all the more interesting of a case, at least for us.
Obviously innocent until proven guilty, but the allegations, they keep coming.
Serious and
it's
detailed.
Very odd, very detailed.
Last story is something we have been keeping an eye on, the measles cases. We are now up to 3 here in Mecklenburg County, but that pales in comparison to what South Carolina is dealing with right now. In fact, South Carolina has the biggest measles case amounts in the nation, 789 as of Tuesday. And the cases that are specifically here in North Carolina, the ones that have been made so far, have been linked to South Carolina cases.
Right. So this is the largest outbreak in the U.S. since it was declared eliminated in 2000. So South Carolina has 789 cases as of Tuesday. Those were the latest numbers that came out. 18 of those people, by the way, have been hospitalized from any sort of complications. And then an additional 557 to be precise, are in quarantine right now. So we'll kind of wait and find out if any of those people have contracted the virus as well.
Yeah, and that's something we will be keeping an eye on with that. And you also have to keep in mind most of those cases are just a few counties down the road on 85 in the upstate. And the largest concentration, I believe, still right now is in Spartanburg County.
Highly transmissible too.
Yeah. I do want to get a check of your weather on this Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. It's been a long week, folks. We've got, let's see, what seem to be mostly clear skies across the area. 37 degrees, though, as you can see outside. It is chilly out there.
There's something on the horizon.
Yes, and we're waiting for more and more details on this coming up. But we've been talking about this potential for snow, the white stuff.
Yes, ice
happening this weekend, and there could be potentially quite a bit of it, right?
For Carolina standards, okay. There could be a lot
perspective.
Of it. Yes, it's all about perspective. I mean, what I think is possible right now, Morgan might come outside and look and be like, "This is it." But but we could see our 4-year-long streak. It's been over 1,400 days since we saw just 1 inch in Charlotte. That is looking increasingly likely it'll come to an end this weekend here. But until then, we've got dry and cold conditions on the way here across the Carolinas. We've got some very chilly temperatures here, 45 degrees. It's actually balmy compared to what we've seen earlier in the week here, trying to melt whatever leftover ice here we've seen across portions of the Carolinas. Winds out of the west, about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Dew points down in the low teens. You kind of need that moisturized, rather. That's how dry it is here across the Carolinas. I get very, very dry skin. I'm told, got to keep moisturizing. Pinpoint satellite shows a little bit of those high-level clouds here up across the mountains. You can actually see some of these waves, what we call Helmholtz waves here up across the mountains, that sort of wave-breaking pattern. Really cool to look at in visible satellite imagery. Radar right now is quiet here across the region. Temperatures are still quite chilly, still below average, though at least a little bit warmer compared to what we've seen earlier in the week. Still, though, down in the mid-20s as we head up into the mountains, mid-40s elsewhere throughout the Carolinas. As we go throughout the next 12 hours, we'll see those temperatures dip down, likely into the upper 20s. Now, coming up in a few minutes, my full forecast, I'm going to be talking about what we could see this weekend, sort of what we know, what we don't hear in terms of the forecast. By this time tomorrow, probably going to have a pretty good idea of what we can expect here. Still sort of in that sort of identifying what's the track going to be, what are the potential impacts here. But if you want totals, going to have to come back here at 3 o'clock tomorrow, but at least going to be kind of laying out what we're watching for as we get towards the weekend coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay. All right.
Thanks so much. Let's see. So there's been a bit of a snub that's getting quite a bit of controversy over the over Hall of Fame.
It's insane.
Yeah, and a lot of people.
Who are we talking about?
We'll get to it.
Bill Belichick, in fact. Details on the snub and the reaction to it, and kind of everything that's kind of been going on with it. Coming up, this is Queen City News Plus Live.
Bless you, Andrew. Welcome back to Queen City News Plus Live on this Wednesday.
show's
Right when the
to
microphone
sneeze
goes
at,
up,
though,
so
guys.
yes. This is live TV, folks.
Taking a live look at
live streaming TV.
Independence Boulevard right now. Things are clear, things are dry. That's the way we like it, but that might be changing. We'll check in with the allergy
It's
king
just the
over
dry
here.
air. I'm going to be real
Okay.
dry air.
All
guys.
right. We'll check in with Andrew Brightman in just a little bit. There is a new reason to love tax season.
Yes.
Actually,
didn't love it
a
already.
reason. Yeah, as if you needed more reasons. So the Trump just shared new details about the Trump accounts. Those are the $1,000 accounts that people can qualify for their children, basically. And this tax season, you will get the opportunity to opt into the Trump accounts while filing your 2025 taxes.
Yes, the accounts themselves will not open until July 2026. But if you have a kid that was born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028, they will qualify for this Trump account, which basically put $1,000 into an account, which will then be invested. And when the child turns 18, they will have access to that money. Now, the money itself will be invested in the stock market by private firms. And this has been touted for a while. In fact, this was something that I think President Trump actually did have on the campaign trail, if I'm not mistaken, because I've heard about this off and on for the last little bit, but it's finally becoming a bit more of a reality. Now, the critics will note that this will not help children in early years. This will help them likely when they turn 18,
Right.
but not necessarily when they are growing up in the most vulnerable
Well,
time.
and it's different than a 529, which is used kind of exclusively for education. So these are like retirement accounts. So funds within Trump accounts will be invested as the child grows, and they can use it for a variety of reasons, not just on education. So it'll be nice in that sense. The form that you will need to fill out is kind of a nod to Trump. It's form 4547. So 45, 47. So there you have it. By the way, for children and families that don't qualify, maybe their kid was born, later or earlier. In December, billionaires Michael and Susan Dell, they announced a huge donation, $6.25 billion, to allow those children under 10 to receive $250 in seed money for those who didn't qualify, basically.
And those babies that do qualify, they must be U.S. citizen, have a social security number, be born between those dates. Any parent can open an account for a qualifying child, regardless of immigration status. Let's get to Amazon now. There are some details on a big job cut that's going to be coming there. Corporate layoffs, in fact, 16,000 corporate jobs are involved in layoffs as the corporate end of Amazon switching to AI.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a huge shock, right? This is something that Amazon, it's been in the news. We knew that this was coming. In fact, the last reductions were in October were 14,000. So it's not super surprising that this is happening. Obviously, it's a massive layoff. 16,000 corporate jobs. It's going to be basically in 3 months, it sounds like. But they're using AI to replace these corporate workers. So it's just kind of a sign of how things are changing and how companies are using AI to just better their workflow.
Yeah, we should note that this is largely on the corporate level, not necessarily talking about the Amazon workers that would be at the warehouse, even though those have also been scaled back quite a bit as well because not only of AI, but also because a lot of the people that were hired for those Amazon warehouses were hired during the pandemic when a lot of people were ordering things off Amazon, and that has kind of waned over the years, especially as people have gotten basically back to shopping in the regular sense.
Right, exactly. So let's talk some football. You teased this before we went to commercial break. Bill Belichick, he was snubbed as a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. So he wasn't on the first ballot for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I mean, how? I don't understand how this happened. So he needed 40 votes from the 50-person panel of media members and Hall of Famers. He didn't get them. But what he does have is 6 Lombardi trophies as a head coach with the Patriots. He's got 2 as an assistant with the Giants. I mean, the dude has more Super Bowl rings than anyone. You would think that he would get in on the first round.
Yeah, the snub shocked a lot of people. In fact, I think I saw something from Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, there we go.
You got it.
No, it's just like trying to get it out of my mouth. It's Patrick Mahomes. He criticized the decision.
Everyone is.
And everyone is, but he was like one of the big football players that was saying that. Part of me wonders, considering the unusualness of the past couple of years involving Bill Belichick, because I think a lot of people have noted like the interview that he did once that was something.
I mean, one of the articles I read talked about the Spygate, all that stuff, and I still think that shouldn't tarnish.
Yeah. Doesn't tarnish the reputation
done.
and it doesn't tarnish what he did.
They're just jealous they couldn't beat him. Okay, the guy has got 6 rings. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna try to make a reference to how many rings he had. Like, nothing was coming to mind that was saved for the show. But the guy has a lot of rings. Okay, it's insane. Now, there's rumors as to what has happened here with this particular story. I think all the people that voted need to come out and let's a naming of names here.
Okay.
If the guy he has the most Super Bowl victories by a head coach by 2, not just by 1, by 2. He has been to the coach in a Super Bowl 9 times. He has a total of 8 rings because he was also a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator with the New York Giants. He was almost a Hall of Fame caliber coordinator before he even won the 6 rings. I could talk about this for a long time.
If not him, then who?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I gotta do the
it makes you wonder what the conversations were like and why people didn't vote for him. I mean, surely it's not UNC, right? I know he had a 4-8 record there, but I mean, it takes time.
Yeah.
But we're getting wrapped. I could talk about it all day.
Right there with you.
Let's get a check of your weather right now. We did have Andrew here in the picture just a second ago, but we do have a look at the Arlington camera. You can see clear as a bell, but that belies what we might be getting in the next couple of days. We've been mentioning this chance of snow, which is probably going to be pretty substantial.
When the meteorologist started talking about snow, I mean, we hadn't even put our blow-up mattresses away from when we slept in the station here this weekend, so it's a little soon, but I guess you can't control the weather.
In fact, y'all were kind of noting it before the ice storm came into town last weekend.
Yeah. No, I mean, sorry, I've warmed up because I'm still steaming from that last story. But when it comes to the forecast, lots of by Carolina standards. Again, we only average about 4 inches of snow a year here in Charlotte. So
that sounds high.
Because we haven't seen over an inch of snow in one event here since January of 2022.
I remember that.
Where it has been a minute here just to get an inch of snow in Charlotte. 45 degrees right now. Winds out of the west about 10 to 15 miles an hour. There you go. There's a number for you. 1,468 days since our last 1 inch or more here in Charlotte. It's increasingly likely that at least that streak is going to break here once we get to this weekend. That's at least looking like the base case across the Carolinas. How much we go past that is an open question. Really needs to be ironed out. Probably going to be getting a much better idea by the time we get to this time tomorrow. So what do we know? The cold air is in place. This is going to be a Saturday event. It's going to really be snow or nothing here across the Carolinas. We're not really concerned about mixing. Where does the low track? How quickly does it come together? Those are going to be so crucial. It's one of these storms where just a subtle change in the upper level dynamics here in the atmosphere that, us weather nerds like moi look at can have very outsized impacts on what we can see here with this particular storm. So we're kind of in this 3 to 5 days out. Snow, what's the track going to be? What are we expecting? That is what we're really trying to figure out here. And it's a little bit more, it's not as obvious as where it was last week when we knew all this precipitation was coming and it was going to be kind of ice, sleet, that kind of stuff. But how is it going to come together? So first off tonight, next couple of days, we got quiet weather here across the Carolinas. I'll go throughout your Thursday forecast. We got sunshine in the morning, cold weather, low to mid-20s, kind of same thing we've been seeing all week long here across the Carolinas. We get into the afternoon, probably going to be in the low to mid-40s again. Very chilly weather across the Carolinas, partly cloudy skies, and that's also the case as we go into the overnight with more chilly weather on your Friday morning. Let's talk, though, about possibilities here. Still trying to iron out what exactly this track is going to be here with this particular storm. Looking more and more like the something lines, because you kind of see in the pink, maybe kind of just inside of the something line potentially here across the Carolinas in terms of impacts here for the Carolinas. This is our in-house Barron model that I'll show you next. I will be the first one to say this is very, very aggressive in what it's showing, but just give you an overall idea of the timing and kind of what the radar could look like here Saturday morning. Showing a lot of snow developing here across the Carolinas, then eventually moving off to the north and east and out. Now that track is a very aggressive track that we could see, but it still is in the realm of possible outcomes here across the Carolinas. Something to watch over the next couple of days. Really, we'll have a much better idea kind of ironed out with what we could see over the next 24 hours or so. And by the time you tune back with this tomorrow, we'll have a much better idea of what we could see in terms of potential totals here across the Carolinas. So you want to tune back in tomorrow for that. But nonetheless, we are making Saturday a pinpoint weather alert day. Going to see at least some snow here across the Carolinas. It's really just a question now of how much we could see throughout the region.
And in the event that we do get a lot of snow, of course, we will be here reporting on all of that right out of the Blue Room, possibly.
More quality time together, Morgan.
Yes.
But when is probably going to be the time we know for certain what we're going to be getting as far as what's the earliest?
I mean, I'd say tomorrow. Really, by tomorrow morning. I've always had a strict rule. I've loved snow forecasting. Snow. It's why I do what I do, and I've learned so many times you never talk totals until you're within 48 hours.
And especially here in Charlotte, it's one thing if it's up in the high country, but here in Charlotte, it is always a bit of an unknown.
It does, and it causes outside impacts, especially in this part of the country. I just want to be very, very certain. That's why I always say 48 hours out until you can start posting snow totals.
Tomorrow we will know more.
Yeah, that will do it for us on this edition of Queen City News Plus Live. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye.